Good afternoon, everybody. So I had a little free time on my hands today, so I'm gonna fix this little weed whacker thing here for my cousin, because he's wanting to trim around his fence and stuff, and this thing's got a pretty gnarly blade on it right here. Instead of having trimmer line like a weed eater, this thing's got a saw blade on it for cutting small trees and stuff. And got a little Briggs and Stratton engine on it here. He said it was not running good. So we're going to take it apart here and see if we can figure out what's going on and why it's not running good. So I think the first thing we're going to do here is take this wheel off to get us some better access here to the carburetor. So that looks like that's going to be about probably a 9/16. So we'll put a little spritz on it and let it loosen all that up. Just take our nut off, take our wheel off. Put that back on so we don't lose it. There we go. Now I got good access here. Alright, take off our air filter cover here, and that just slides down in one bolt. And there's a little vent tube right here in the back we gotta get off. There. That just slides on right there. It's just like a little crankcase vent tube. So take that off. And here's our carburetor. And it looks like we got a really nice rusty spring here. So we're just going to kind of lubricate all that. Take that spring off right there. And this is the governor right here. This controls the maximum speed the engine will go, and it's all controlled by this spring right here. And that spring does not look that great, so we might wind up replacing that spring, but that controls the wide open throttle right there. And then we got a little clamp right here we got to get off for this fuel line. And we're going to drain that fuel up. Break it loose. We'll just let that drain off down in the bucket. Alright, now we got the fuel drained out of it. There's one. And somebody's made a repair here because there's a bolt in here. There's a bolt and a nut. On this side it was just a bolt, and on this side it's a bolt and a nut. So So somebody's fixed something in here. Alright, now we're going to take the carburetor off. We got to get it off the governor linkage. Like that. And there's our carburetor. That looks like a new carburetor. That don't look bad. Okay, so this bracket is actually held on by this bolt right here. Okay, that goes straight into the intake port there. So we have these two bolts here, and there's a gasket right here. And it don't look too bad. Looks like it still might be runnable. See, it's a little rough on the outside because it's kind of old, but the electrode on the inside right here, that's what we're really looking at. It's a little dark, but it looks like it still has life left in it, so we're going to see if it throws spark here in a little while. And before I get too carried away with this stuff, we're going to run a compression test on this engine. We're going to see how much compression is inside this cylinder right here to make sure that it's going to run. Because if you don't have enough compression in here, you're going to have problems with your rings and stuff, and it's not going to run. So before we go through all this work, let's make sure we got good compression there. Okay, so what we've got here is a compression tester. And you can get this at any auto parts store or anything like that. Harbor Freight. I think I got this one at Harbor Freight. And all you do is you just take this end right here and screw it in where the spark plug goes. And just twist the whole thing in like that till you get a good seal. Now once you got the gauge where you can read it, it's screwed in pretty tight. All you're going to do is crank the engine over and watch and see how much pressure you got right there. And that is not good. I think we got something wrong with our engine. Okay. So we'll take it off here and look at the head gasket. And it don't look too bad. Not too bad. I think that might be reusable in this case. You never reuse head gaskets on engines, but these small engines you could probably get by with it because it's not that much power, so they don't blow out real bad. But it looks like right here something's happened right here. So here's our exhaust valve right here. It's opening. That's good. And our intake valve right here is opening. That's good. Actually, we're okay here. Our rod is okay. Our crank's okay. Our valves are moving. But I think that what we've got here is there must be a sealing problem between, there's either a piston ring problem, but I'm wondering if we have a problem with our valve sealing here, and that's why we don't have any compression. Right there's top dead center compression stroke. So at top dead center compression stroke, both of these valves, the intake and the exhaust valve, should be completely closed. So now what I should be able to do to test this is put the head back on, bolt it back down, and put some compressed air through the spark plug hole and see if it blows out here or the exhaust. That'll kind of tell the tale, I think, of where our problem may be. So just wipe this off real good and put it right back on. And being that this is a small engine, I'm not too concerned about everything being popped. I'm sure there's a sequence here to tighten all these down, but we're not too concerned with that right now. So we'll just start from the middle and work our way up. So I'm going to modify this piece that came with my compression tester kit. It came with this long snout and it's threaded on both ends. So I took the fitting out of the one end and I got me a regular air fitting and it'll screw right in there. So I'm just going to screw that in. And then what I'm going to do is screw the whole thing into the spark plug hole. Like that. Now I can hook up my air line to this and I'm going to blow air into here. And I want to see if air comes out of the intake port, the exhaust port, or the oil fill hole. That's going to tell me if it comes out of the intake, I've got a problem with my intake valve sealing. If it comes out of the tailpipe, out of the exhaust, that means my exhaust valve is not sealing. And if it comes out of the oil dipstick tube, I know I've got a problem with the piston rings. So I've turned the pressure down in my air compressor hose to about 60 psi because I don't want this to move the cylinder any. I just want to check for leaks. So I don't need full force out of this hose right here. There it is, right there. See that? I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's coming out of the exhaust. My exhaust valve is not sealing because it's coming out of here. And I'm at top dead center. All this should be closed. So I've got a problem with my exhaust valve. So that's the test right there. I don't have a good seal on my exhaust valve. See, I'm at top dead center. Both the intake and exhaust valves should be closed. The piston's all the way at the top, so it's ready to fire. So everything should be sealed right here. And when I put air in here, I have air escaping through the exhaust right here. So I've got an exhaust valve problem. The intake was okay. I felt it right here. There was nothing coming out here. And on the back where the oil dipstick tube goes into the crankcase, there was nothing there. So my rings are okay. So I've just got a problem with this exhaust valve. So now we'll just take it back apart and see if we can get this exhaust valve out. And we'll lap it and check it, make sure it's not bent, and put it back together. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this exhaust valve out. And we got to disassemble this side and the top of the engine to get that out. Alright, so right there's the valve. Look, right there. There's your two valve springs. There's your two valves. So the exhaust valve is right here on the bottom. This is your exhaust port. It goes out to the muffler. So right there, that's the exhaust valve. We got to get that valve out. Okay, so to get this valve out, there's a keeper right in there. All we gotta do is rotate this around. Then we can get it out. Right there. Right there it is. And I'll show you what I mean when I get it out. Right there. Now you can pull your valve out. And be careful of the spring though. We don't want to lose our retainer. So you want to use two fingers right here and make sure it don't fly out because it's still under pressure. Right there. Lost it. And here's your spring right here. It's just like a regular valve spring. And it's still good. This is your retainer right here. And you see how it's got a groove in it and you can slot. So you can push it in to slide it over and lock it in, and that sits right in there. Right like that. And that's how it sits in there. So now we'll just go ahead and slide our valve out. And here's our exhaust valve. So what we want to look at here, we got a rag and clean it. We want to make sure it's not bent. And then we're going to lap it and put it back in. We'll check it right here also, put it back in. And we'll wiggle it back and forth, side to side, up and down. Make sure there's not too much play in that valve guide right there. And that feels pretty good. That's pretty tight. There's a little bit there, but it's not much. So that's good. Okay, so we'll just get us a rag here. Just wipe it down. And that looks pretty decent right there. Looks pretty good. So now the next thing to do is to make sure that the shaft is not bent and the head is not bent. And the easiest way to do that is to chuck it up into an electric drill and spin it. So now just get you an electric drill, take your valve, put it in the end there. Just chuck it up like that. That's all you gotta do. Now you're just gonna spin it and make sure this is true. See, that's good. The tap is spinning good. It's not wobbling up and down or doing this number. Everything's nice and free. That's good. That's good. So we're going to leave it like that because we're going to relap the face, the seat of this valve. Actually, we're not going to be able to do that because of how it's in the head. So we'll just take it out of our drill. We know that's a good valve right there. All right, so what we're going to use to make the repair on our exhaust valve is this valve grinding compound from Permatex. And this is good stuff right here. Okay, so I did not have a suction cup that would fit onto that so I could spin it fast enough to really get it going. So I took my drill and one of those abrasive discs. I just took it and trimmed off all the outside of it and made it to where it's about the same size where it'll fit right in there, kind of where it needs to be right there. And then that way, when I turn it, I can actually make this valve spin the way it needs to spin. Pop it out of there. And we'll just take a look at it here. And it's starting to get there. There we go. Okay, now all we got to do is wipe it all out, and then we're going to put our valve back in. Okay, I think it's in there. Okay, now we got our valves back in. We'll put it back together. Put some of that on there. See if we have Boba. See if we got a good seat. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. You just move. Yeah, she moved right here. So we got good breath in there. Okay, so when you're setting the gap on your coil here, you want to put about a credit card in between there. About a gap of a credit card in there. That's where you want to set it. Because you don't want this thing to hit the flywheel. But you want it to be close enough it'll generate that magnetic field and make that spark go to your spark plug. So we're going to set this with about a credit card in there, and then we'll tighten it down. All right, now that way when you turn it, it don't hit. But you got a close enough gap there, and you do what you need to do. Don't forget to plug that up. For it will not run. Right there. Plug that little guy up. All right, let's give it a shot here. And there we go, and it runs. See y'all next time.